क्लाइंट के पास में बैठते हैं, आप जब बैठते हो, तरुण जी जब बैठते हैं, तो गेस्ट हमसे कहता है कि ये सब तो देखा हुआ है, कुछ नया दिखाओ। तो नया क्या है बेसिकली?
So I'm glad that, first of all, good evening, so many planners here. Now I know why Delhi doesn't have any business. All the business is obviously coming to Agra with so many planners. But thank you for keeping us here. To answer your question, so we get asked the same thing. सब लोग पूछते हैं कि नया दिखाओ. I think the internet has been the biggest enemy of the event manager or the planner.
I'll say a friend as well.
Well, friend as well, but in a lot of ways, आजकल, I don't know अगर आप लोग के साथ होता है, पर हमारे साथ हम जब ब्रीफ के लिए जाते हैं तो they take out their phones and they put it, say हमें ये चाहिए, and that is invariably done by Preston Bailey or it's done by one of these big people. When we started about 12-15 years ago, when I started my own company, हमारे पास प्रेस्टन के बड़े बड़े किताबें होती थी, and I think every event company had 4 or 5 of these books, which we called them the Bible. There were all these things, and I got a similar question where there was a very big wedding in Delhi, and they called us and said, "हमें कुछ नया दिखाइए, कुछ." And actually, that was the brief. The brief was that show us something that no one has ever seen before. And it was a one-line brief. So he's like, can you tell us a little bit more? And he said, नहीं बस वही है, आप बस दिखा दो. So we went back, and the meeting lasted all of 5 minutes. And when we were walking out, there were another 10-15 other competition people coming back. तो हमें लगा कि while we were sitting in the client's office, he had these 3 big paintings of elephants. And I asked my business partner, I said, did you notice anything in the office? She said, I noticed the elephant paintings. So I said, which means that this man obviously likes elephants. So let's try and see what we can do with elephants. Now the other thing was, we did not want to copy. We did not want to go into one of these books or get onto the internet and start researching. So I said, okay, let's maro tukka and let's send an email to Preston Bailey. So हमने इंटरनेट पे जाके प्रेस्टन बेली का नाम सब निकाला, ईमेल आईडी निकाली और मैंने ईमेल कर दिया. सो प्रॉम्प्टली 3-4 घंटे बाद when America woke up, we got an email back saying that show me your work. अभी हम 1.5-2 साल से काम कर रहे थे, हमने दिखा दिया जी, this is India, we are a small market. So he said, what can you tell me about the brief? So I said, the client wants something that no one has ever done before. So Preston said, I know this is happening in your part of the world also. So it was that, and then we got talking. Next day I had a phone call, and he said, okay, can you come for a meeting? So I said, yeah, sure, you can come for a meeting. He said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So I was like, I live in India. It takes me 24 hours to get to where you are. I cannot come tomorrow morning. So he said, okay, let's do it for Thursday or whatever. So 3 days later, I was in New York. I had to fly down to go meet him. And he said, okay, tell me your brief. So I said, the client likes elephants. So he said, is that all? I said, yeah, that's all. He said, okay, let's sit down and start brainstorming. So that was my first interaction with him. And we sat down with a piece of paper and said, okay, let's look at the entrance and let's see what we can do with elephants. Now typically what Indians do is we'll put 50 elephants on one side and 50 elephants on the other side. And then you have great friends like Tarun, you can put them in fiber so they won't dirty the place. So we said no. But I said, look, I'm from India, I can get you 50 live elephants as well. So he said, no, let's think differently. And then he sketched out this beautiful entry. And the entry was, before that was, he asked me questions, how many people will there be? So he said there were about 5,000 people, but this is India. And with 5,000 people, there is another 5,000 who come. And especially if now we know that if Preston is going to be designing the event, there will be at least 1,000 more event planners who will come. So we said it will be about 5,000-6,000 people. So we had this whole exercise where we designed the entry from a distance. You saw a herd of elephants, and that was the definition. We went on to do many other things. And some of the learnings were that, which I learned in that, was that everybody is asking for something new. So when we went back to present to the client, we said, "आपके 5,000 लोग होंगे वहाँ पे. We cannot do anything on the floor. We cannot do anything on the tables. We cannot do anything on that because किसी को कुछ दिखाएगा नहीं. All you can see is people. So let's fly everything." So the first time we said, okay, सब कुछ we should do sky high. So everything was, all our decor was at 25 to 30 feet above people. So people could see the decor. Otherwise you will not see, you will only see people and see the Manish Malhotras and the Sabyasachi costumes that they were wearing. To answer your question, and I'll come back to the story later, but to answer your question, I think this is a universal problem that everybody has. And I think it is a lack of creativity on the client side. Because I think some of the best work that you do is when the client gives you a brief and they're clear in your head that this is what I want. So I did Priyanka Chopra's wedding last year. And again, when I sat down, I said, okay, what do you want? So she was very clear. And the brief was actually 4 pages. It went on for 4 pages. And she gave me, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what. It made our life easier because we went back and designed it accordingly. We presented it accordingly, and it was executed accordingly. Where she walked in and said, "Oh, this is exactly what you showed me on your design. This is exactly what you did." So I think the problem with us also is, as planners, I've learned in the last 10 years, ask questions. When someone says, "Give me something that has never been done before," my answer is, everything has been done before. There is nothing that has not been done before. So tell me what you want. Tell me, do you want it inverted from the sky? Do you want now Chandrayaan and Vikram lander on the moon? I'm sure there are going to be themes coming up like that also very soon. So the question is that everybody asks these questions, but we as planners are your biggest example is that you have to get that question out of the client. You have to ask them what they want. And as planners, I think we have a right to ask them. Because अगर आप पूछोगे नहीं, you will create something, आपके 10 presentations होंगे, और वो next question is, जी आपने ये दिखा दिया, ये ना मज़ा नहीं आया. Now this is a lovely glass and it's been very nicely done and it's great quality. But it's a standard glass. Now we expect it to be a great glass. But I've seen glasses that have been tilted, I have seen glasses that have been anti-gravity and all kinds of things that have come up today where people say you can pour water and turn it around and nothing happens. I don't know how it happens, but it does. But those are the things that excite people. So we are living in a gimmick world. We're living in a world where everybody is wanting something different. We are talking about, that's why half the things that we do are out of the box. A few years ago, we had a client who came to us and said, "I want to do a destination wedding. I don't want to do Thailand." Okay, where do you want to go? "I don't want to go to Europe." Okay, where do you want to go? "I don't want to go to Nepal. I don't want to go to Sri Lanka. I don't want to go anywhere else." The only place we had left to take him was water. So I called up Sanjeev and I said, "I have a client who wants to come to do a wedding on a ship," and that's one of the videos you saw. Because every possible country he had either been to or holidayed in or attended somebody's wedding. Thailand karna nahi, Singapore karna nahi, nothing. So we said, "Chalo ji, aap pani mein karo." And that was one of the first big cruise weddings that we did. So we answered that question back by saying, "Give me something new, but give me something which is not been done before." And we said, "Okay, let's do water." And it turned out to be good. I know a company that did 80 people bachelor party on a plane, and they flew around for 3 hours. And they got there. It's beside the point that they got to that destination and half of them got arrested because they were drunk. But that's beside the point. So yeah, to answer your question, I think सब पूछते हैं कुछ नया दीजिए, कुछ नया करिए. But if you can get that answer out, the answer is in that question itself. आपको भी पता चल जाएगा. You just need to know that what do you want out of it, and observe that उनका क्या है. Like that wedding that I'm talking about. Had it not been for that painting of the 3 elephants, we would not have known. We would have possibly gone back and done 20 things. But we came back and he's like, "Hare, hathi, haan, मेरे को हाथी बहुत पसंद है." So it suddenly went through, and that is exactly what what it was.
तरुण जी, अगला सवाल आपसे है जानना चाहूंगा कि जो डिकॉर इंडस्ट्री है स्पेशली, उसको आप कैसे देखते हैं? क्या वो फर्दर स्ट्रगल कर रही है या बहुत जल्दी आगे बढ़ रही है और ज्यादा आगे बढ़ेगी? इसको आप कैसे देखते हैं? इंडस्ट्री एज ए विजन बात कर रहा हूँ, डिकॉर की बात.
First of all, good evening, guys. Thank you, Chetan Bhai, for coming on such a short notice and making it here. Thank you, Sandeep ji, for having me here. Well, to me, decor has always been there when it comes to weddings. And I don't see it going anywhere in the sense कि ये कोई die out हो जाएगी या ये कोई बहुत बढ़ जाएगी. Yes, there is natural evolution happening. और अच्छी बात ये है कि evolution is happening in cities like Agra also, Chetan bhai. Earlier, I can tell you for sure, 10 years ago, whenever there used to be a good wedding, Agra में कोई बड़ी शादी होती थी, and there are always people coming from outside. Now I see people, I mean, in every city I go, I see fair amount of people developing there, which are, I think, equivalent to people from the bigger cities. So if you ask me, industry per se, I think it is evolving. It is even trickling down to the smaller cities, which is the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Metros has always been big in decor. And yes, the evolution is happening on the design language also. So that design language is thanks to internet. I mean, yes, it has been an enemy. मतलब हम किसी मीटिंग में जाते थे और the first thing जो हमें जो brief मिलता था वो Pinterest मिलता था. Surprisingly, it's no brief. But let me tell you, that helped us know what the customer wants. मतलब for us, I mean, very importantly, what Chetan bhai you pointed out was to figure out what he wants. And let me tell you, whenever you have a vague brief, it is because the client doesn't know what he wants. क्योंकि उसे पता ही नहीं उसे चाहिए क्या. And that is probably that's the trick, that's the skill of the game. कि हमें ये देखना है कि उसे चाहिए क्या. How do we sell something which we don't know? So that Pinterest image can help you, decide and kind of understand कि उसे क्या चाहिए, and then you can carry on from there. So coming back to the question, industry per se, I think it will grow, it will evolve. Design language is improving, which is very very heartily for me. मतलब पहले ऐसा था कि there was a drastic difference between metro cities and cities like Agra and down under. तो पहले ऐसा होता था कि मेट्रो का काम बिल्कुल अलग होता था. बट नाउ आई सी लॉट ऑफ माई फ्रेंड सिटिंग हियर, यहाँ पर जो लोग बैठे हुए हैं जो आगरा में काम करते हैं, एंड लेट मी टेल यू, इट इज़ वेरी वेल, बहुत इवॉल्व हो गया है, बहुत रिफाइंड हो गया है, टेस्ट अच्छा है. तो इंडस्ट्री ग्रो करेगी. येस, देयर कैन बी हार्ड टाइम्स, गुड टाइम्स, बम्पर टाइम्स, बट ट्रस्ट मी, इंडस्ट्री इम्पॉर्टेंस ऑफ डेकोर इज नॉट गोइंग एनीवेयर टू मी. Decor, venue construct हमेशा रहेगा, because it is about the signature of the client. This is what the client wants to show. उसको क्या उसका क्या taste है, तो वो तो important रहेगा. I don't know if Chetan bhai will contribute more on this.
I think I've lived in Delhi now for the last 20-25 years. I've worked out of Delhi and Bombay large part of the last 22 years. And we genuinely feel that when there's a quality production that you want to do, and Tarun sitting here is not because he's a great friend and a very close associate of ours, but I'll give you a live example. But a few years ago, 6 years ago, we both BSc, we had a big wedding to do for the JP family, and it was. Again, they called us and said, आओ जी हेलीकॉप्टर में बैठो, बताओ कहाँ पे कर सकते हैं, हमारे पास गोल्फ कोर्स है, हमारे पास ये है, हमारे पास वो है. So we like...
It was the first time Chetan bhai took the aerial view of expressway.
Yeah. And we drove down and said, okay, Booth circuit looks very good, let's do a wedding on a racetrack. And the client had a budget, and he said, look, I don't want to spend more than this. I first, naturally, because we're from Delhi, we had the usual suspects that we work with, and I called them in for a meeting. Either they heard JP, at that time JP Group was very big, or they heard Booth Circuit or they heard our name, and the cost went maybe 5 times of the budget. And we kept getting back and saying, doesn't work. And then I called up Tarun and I said, can you come down for a meeting? I want to discuss a brief. So he came down and I took him to the site and I said, look, this is what. And the most complicated part of that was it was monsoon, and we knew it was going to rain. So we needed to construct a hangar on that in that whole Booth Circuit. We needed to create a hangar which would systematically fuse in with the building. And I brought in some of the biggest names in the hangar construction business from Bombay and from various places, and everybody gave me complete plans that didn't work for me or costs that didn't work for me. And then we sat down together and figured out, saying that, and I have to give a lot of credit to his confidence, but he said it's not that difficult, I can do it. We did that event, and believe me, I think 90% of the people who came in thought it was a foreign production, because people thought we had brought people from outside, because it was exceptional. After that event, I think we've had anything which is really complicated or something, we lean back to vendors here, and that's only because your thinking is still open. आप दिल्ली में देखो वेंडर्स हैं जो भी हैं, बिकॉज देव डन इट, देयर इज एन एक्सपेक्टेशन, हाँ जी कर लेंगे, बट दे लीड टू इंटरनेशनल प्लेयर, हम बाहर से किसी को बुला लेंगे. आई लाइक द फैक्ट दैट places like Agra or even Jaipur for that matter, the kind of the whole ecosystem that is there, people like us who are there, ideas are fresh, there is this hunger to get up and prove yourself, and that is your biggest victory. And I've seen the kind of quality of work that a lot of you do here. Season time may we come to Agra, now it's only 2 hours away from where we are, but I'm here on a very regular basis in some hotel or the other, doing a recce with a client or coming here and saying, and I've seen some of the work. I might not know you personally, but I've seen some of the work, and I'm a big one for not copying designs but appreciating it. And I've seen some of the really pretty mandaps that you do or things like that happen here. So I think decor is a huge inspiration, and creativity coming out from the genuineness of an idea is again something that is not going to go away, like he rightfully said.
एक और कहना है चेतन जी आपसे कि बेसिकली जो डेकोर है, ये सब्जेक्ट आप दोनों का है, ये इस पे कुछ MRP नहीं लिखी हुई है. There is no MRP कि भाई ये शर्ट है या पैंट है या कोट है, ये डिफाइन कैसे करते हो आप? ये मैं इसलिए भी पूछ रहा हूं क्योंकि गेस्ट आता है और आपसे भाई आप कुछ भी बोल देते हो, वो कुछ भी है या उसके पीछे कुछ लॉजिक है, ये समझना चाहूंगा.
अगर आप कोई भी डिजाइनर के पास जाते हैं, मनीष मल्होत्रा हो, सव्यसाची हो, जो भी हो, he has got a piece of cloth which he has used his kalakari on, right? And it is invariably only so many meters of cloth that is there. And then you get up and say, इसके 5 लाख रुपए, इसके 10 लाख रुपए. Sometimes some of the brides that I take to some of these places, because again we know these people personally, तो नहीं जी आप चलो, तो वहाँ पे personal attention मिल जाएगा. And I think back, I said 10 लाख रुपए. I've got 2 daughters, and I keep thinking ऐसे रहेगा, ये जो बड़े हो जाएंगे, अगर ये भी जब जाके बोलेगा 10 लाख रुपए का लहंगा चाहिए, मैं तो लुट जाऊंगा. But the fact is that what is he charging you for? So he's charging you for his kalakari on that piece of cloth, his idea, his creation. You are no different. We are not different. Every one of us sitting in this room today, we are also creators. If I give you a piece of paper, you can create magic on it because you have the idea. You're an event planner, or you're a decorator, or you're a anything for that matter in the creative field. You might be a chef, but the fact is you're a gifted individual who has that gift. What are you charging for? You're charging. It's very easy to get up and say that tablecloth है जी, इतने का कपड़ा है, इतनी की सिलाई है, इतने का ये है, ये मेरा स्टोरेज फी है, इतने में मिल जाएगा. कितना होगा? 200, 300, 500 रुपए maximum. It doesn't matter about that. What we charge for is our creativity. And what we charge for is the time and effort and sincerity that we put into our work. That's what the charge is. So some of you might charge a fee, some of you might charge a full project cost. As long as you're able to justify it and be confident about it, I don't see a problem.
Great. Your take. Your take.
I think well summed up by Chetan Bhai, that eventually you are charging for the creativity and the idea, inherent idea it has. But there's one more thing which everyone in the house will agree, that it is also those sleepless nights you have. बिना सोए रात को जगना, event की insecurity, butterflies, whatever you may call it. But those sleepless nights are also what you're charging for. And why are those sleepless nights coming to you? Because you are accountable to that event. So that accountability is also you're charging for, reliability you are charging for. तो मुझे लगता है कि MRP नहीं होती, but हर चीज़ की एक fair value होती है. And you are charging for a fair value. मुझे I normally whenever I have my team meetings with them, I tell you, मतलब all my people, my down under, my team general manager and everybody, I always tell them that the kind of client we deal with, they are at least 1,000 times smarter than us because they are 1,000 times bigger than us. So if you are doing a project for somebody who has 2,000 crores of turnover, he's way smarter than us.
That's true.
So if we think we can overcharge, and that guy is willing to pay that price, then he's paying for the reliability, for that accountability of yours, and yes, of course, your ideas. So yes, there is no MRP, but there is a fair value price always.
I'll just add to that. I think I have a very different take on that also. What is MRP? Let's understand. किसी चीज का एक cost है, cost का आपने profit लगा दिया, उसका एक MRP होगा. In the world, we are all born with a certain level of intelligence. We've gone to school, you've gone to college, you've been socialized in a particular way. आपको सिखाया गया है, whether you've trained with a big company or worked for your father or whatever, आपको सिखाया गया कि how to arrive at an MRP. I think in our event trade there is another thing. It's not about IQ. It's not about an MRP. It's about an EQ. And it's about your emotional quotient. You're in a business, especially wedding planners. You're in a business where everything is about emotion. You have to understand your client's emotion. You have to understand. Sometimes there are clients who don't have a budget, and there might be a genuine problem. But if you can think from the heart and understand that problem, then there is no problem. I'll give you, I'm going to give you small examples just to make it, make my point relevant. I'll give you a very short example. We were doing a wedding, again, very early in our career, about 6, 7, 8 years ago. And we had, about till 3 weeks ago, and I was dealing with the client, the father and the brother of the bride. And it was just so happened that we sent them the budget, finally about 3 weeks to go. Final budget was sent. The next day, no one took calls. Third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, I must have tried. Nothing happened. What do we assume? भाग गए. इतना भी हमने कोई झटका तो दिया नहीं था, but फिर भी, I said, okay, what has happened? I went back and revised the budget, and I said, what is it? I sent them another email, and I said, look, please take our calls. Tell us what is the problem. We'd like to do the wedding. No news. The wedding was in 3 weeks' time. एक हफ्ते के बाद we also got up and said, चलो भाग गए तो भाग गए. I get a call from the bride. 4 days or 5 days to go for the wedding. And she picked up the phone and she said, Bhaiya? And I was like, okay, where is this going? I said, my first reaction, you've gone to a planner and he has messed up. And now you're coming back to me. I will ask you for 3 times the price. That is the first question. And then she started crying. My thoughts that now you've gone to a worse planner, he has screwed you further, now I will charge you 4 times. So I said, okay, what happened? I said, I've been trying to reach you guys for 3 weeks. And she said, my brother died. And my phone and the silence, I can feel that emotion even now. And I said, what do you mean your brother died? And she said, on this particular day, this is what happened. he had a car accident and he died. I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. And I calculated back. It is the same day I spoke to him at 5:30 in the evening and he said, send me the cost. And I sent him the cost at 7 o'clock. That night at 9:30, that boy had an accident and he was burnt alive in his car. The father reached the accident spot, was trying to get the son out, saw him burned to death and had a neurological nervous breakdown. And he was in the hospital for the last 2 weeks. He had just come out and the only thing he could say is that तुम्हारी शादी होगी और इसी डेट पे होगी. And she said, I have no one to turn to. Can you help me? It was the morning. I went to their house. I sat down with them. It was only her and her mother. The father sat in one corner and he was like a statue. He just sat. So I said, okay, we will do what we can. The wedding was in Bombay, 4 days to go. That evening I was on a flight out. I took the tea. We went in and I said, no questions asked. We did not discuss money. We did not discuss advances. But I took it upon myself to say that we will marry off a sister and we will do what we have to do. And no one's going to ask any questions. I told my suppliers, I will pay you, but don't ask me questions. Just do what I tell you. Right now we don't have the time. We gave her a wedding the way she had wanted, the way her brother had wanted. And that wedding went off fantastically. The father came, he sat through the wedding with nothing but just tears in his eyes. The mother sat and cried right through the wedding. We finished the wedding. She went off and we did not approach that topic. We said, let it be. We're not going to approach the topic. I think about 8 or 9 months later, one day I get a call from the father, from his number. I had his number saved. I said, Jain Saab, bataiye, good to hear from you. He said, aapse milna hai. And I said, sure, I'll come. I went there. And he gave me an envelope. And he said, I'm okay now. And he still said that I only hear stories and I've seen pictures and I've seen the video. You gave my daughter a fantastic wedding. Here is your check. We have a policy where we don't open payments in front of clients. Whatever you give, we take it and put it back. I walked out, I got into the car, I opened the check. It was a blank check. So I went back to his house and I said, I will not accept this. I do not want a blank check. He said, aapko jo amount likhna hai, likh do. My bank has been told to clear it. I said, nahi, mere ko nahi chahiye. I said, we had agreed on this. मैं आपको खर्चे बता देता हूँ. मैंने किस को क्या दिया. I sent him an email saying which is what I read, and half my suppliers did it free. They did it for a sister. And that is my biggest lesson in life. The fact is that if you can understand somebody's situation the way it is, that Mr. Jain today is my biggest brand ambassador. He has got me over 50 weddings in the last 5-6 years. I get a call and our thing is that he'll call anyone. Karna hai, aap inse karo. Aapse karna hai, you do. So the fact is that when you talk about MRP and when you talk about, that's all IQ. It's very easy to get up and say, this is my cost, this is my profit. But when you talk about an emotional quotient, and as planners, if you can understand and appreciate that, you will make 10 times more money in life.
Great. मैं तरुण जी से जानना चाहूँगा कि सर बताएं कि नॉर्मल क्या परेशानी आती हैं लास्ट मोमेंट पे जब आप कहीं पे डिकॉर कर रहे होते हैं. नॉर्मल परेशानी क्या है और एबनॉर्मल परेशानी क्या है? एक तो सुन ली मैंने.
नॉर्मली मैं बताऊँ, नॉर्मली हम समझते हैं कि क्लाइंट गधा है, वो एक्चुअल साइड पे पता चलता है एक्चुअली गधा है. हमारे साथ बहुत हुआ है.
देखिए, ऑपरेशनल डिफिकल्टीज जो होती हैं, जो मिसमैनेजमेंट, प्लानिंग, लास्ट मिनट चेंजेस, वो एक ऑपरेशनल डिफिकल्टीज हैं. बट व्हाट चेतन भाई जस्ट नरेटेड जो स्टोरी बताई, इट वाज वेरी हार्ट फेल्टिंग. एबनॉर्मल परेशानियाँ नहीं होती हैं. नॉर्मल तो परेशानी हम झेलते रहते हैं कि गाड़ी होटल जगह नहीं दे रहा है और सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. सिमिलर एक्सपीरियंस हुआ था चेतन भाई मेरे साथ अभी. एंड you will not believe it, but it wasn't so tragic. I was speaking to a client, a Dubai-based client tha, and he was Mr. Lohia, very nice gentleman guy. I did not meet him once, but उससे मेरी जब भी interaction हुआ over the mails, and he had liked our designs, and for some reason, and the reason was money, it couldn't happen. I remember that day very, very clearly. So normally I sit with my dad every morning, हम चाय साथ पीते हैं, and it was 7:30 in the morning. I don't take phone with me, the phone is not with me during that time. So मैं बैठा था, and this phone started ringing. Number दिखवाया, and I have a very bad habit of not saving numbers. So मैं अभी भी जैसे मैं किसी का नंबर भूल रहा हूँ, मतलब I don't save numbers of my clients. मैंने देखा हुआ नंबर है यार, देखा हुआ नंबर है. तरुण जी, मैंने कहा जी, अमित ने भेजा. मैंने कहा हाँ जी बताइए अमित जी क्या हुआ. तो 7:30 in the morning मैंने कहा बोले वो आप कहाँ हैं. मैंने कहा मैं तो आगरा में ही हूँ. अच्छा मिल सकते हैं हम. मैंने कहा बताइए. तो बोले वो कल मेरी बेटी की शादी है, आज संगीत था. मैंने स्टक मी, मैंने कहा यार ये तो ठीक कह रहे हो, आज ही तो था, क्या हुआ. बोले द इवेंट गाय डिड नॉट टर्न अप. And it was in JP, and it was a decent wedding. But it was a full-blown residential wedding, my friends. You know the quantum scale and everything. And he said that guy hasn't turned up, and हमारा भी checking lunch है. So, and believe me, Chetan, I couldn't. And the first reaction was जैसे आपने कहा कैसे होगा, मेरा ये था होगा कैसे, and क्या, and you know these thoughts were crossing my mind all the time. And then I heard him saying, देख लीजिए मेरी इज्जत आपके हाथ में है. And that moment I said, चिंता मत करिए मैं आ रहा हूँ, and don't worry, we'll get it done. I don't know how it happened. God willingly, we pulled it off. He pulled it off very nicely. सब लोग आगरा के कनेक्शन बहुत थे. Lot of people called me saying कि यार तब मैं करना है. But I had already decided करना है. So these are the abnormal ones जो हम बात कर रहे थे. And yes, जो EQ की बात करी चेतन भाई ने, I think if you can connect with the family, if you can connect with the client on that emotional quotient, it is way easier. We have to understand हमारा client demon नहीं, हमारा client भूत राक्षस नहीं है. He has a genuine concern. उसकी बेटी की शादी है यार. इमेजिन हम लोगों के घर में एक बर्थडे पार्टी होती है, हम सीजन लोगों की क्या हालत होती है यार. So उनकी उसकी बेटी की शादी है. So if you can connect to that thought and concern, and if you can address that thought and concern, I think the client is yours. I always tell my team, the second thing I tell my team is, हमारे लिए रोज का काम हो सकता है. For him it is once in a lifetime. And that is all he's been longing to see this day. So, emotional quotient is very important. It's not about winning the client. It is about understanding them. If you can understand, if you can connect with his concerns and his anxiety, I think it's not about giving solutions. That comfort level is important. Coming back to your question, everybody knows what last minute glitches are. कि कोई माल रह गया या जगह नहीं मिली और सब कुछ नहीं मिला. मुझे लगता है everybody knows about it. Chetan, would like to add something?
I think also we're living in very different times today. There are all kinds of threats that have come up. There's security, which is a big issue today in our world. The weather, our biggest concern sometimes is rain. Suddenly, you get up and say that, okay, and AccuWeather changes every half an hour now. Earlier it used to change every 3 hours. Now the latest is every half an hour it updates. So you could have rain and not have rain at all. So it's those are concerns I think that are there as well. Another concern, and because we are sitting in a very close fraternity and everybody's friends, I'll tell you it, because you're a new association, you come together. I think the one thing that you also do is respect your competition, respect your friends, understand that don't steal somebody's ideas, don't steal somebody's designs, don't try and undercut somebody. आप किसी के Sumangalam's doing it at 10 lakhs, मैं आपके लिए 8 लाख में कर दूंगा. You are making an injustice to not him but to yourself. at the fact in your reputation in the market. If he's charging 10 lakhs, he's charging 10 lakhs. If he's charging, you want me to do it, I'll do it at 10 lakhs, or maybe I'll do it 11 lakhs. You want to bring it to me, I will do it for you because I'll do as good a job as he is. Never look at that. So I say that, I sit on a board in the national board of the IMA out there, and I say the same thing, and I think a lot of us have now taken that call. So as FEMI, if you can, as you grow, if you can take that as a hidden brotherhood and sisterhood amongst yourselves, that आप एक दूसरे को मत काटो, because that's the other big thing, that a client will always try and make 2 event managers fight or 3 event managers fight. You get up and say that it's not. I mean, it doesn't work. Some of my biggest competition was a friend of mine in Bombay, and we did celebrity weddings, he did celebrity weddings, and every time we went into a pitch, it was him or me, and I would get half or he would get half. Until one day, we were having dinner together, and I said, what is this nonsense? You know what? Let's form a consortium and join hands. And we joined hands, and we formed this consortium. And the next time it happened with Priyanka Chopra also. She called up and said, okay, so I want to meet you, can you come? I said, yeah. So I said, who else are you talking to? She said, talking to Aditya. I said, oh, okay. He asked, he says, who are you talking to? I'm talking to Chetan. So did you realize we're the same company? And she called me and said, what do you mean you're the same company? That means I don't have competition. I said, no, you don't have competition. And the fact is, let him do half and let me do half, and we let us both do a great job. And we helped each other out. And that was it. So when we were doing 2 functions in Jodhpur, they had one crazy party and they drank up all the alcohol. And then he called me, he said, I'm running out of alcohol and I still got 4 hours to go. What do I do? So I said, okay, I'll send you my alcohol. So I sent all the alcohol from our party, which was next morning, to that party, and they finished it. So we had to get alcohol from all over Rajasthan for the next morning, but I had a mehndi to pull off, he had a youngsters to pull off. So the fact is, when you come together, you create magic. So that's the other thing. Don't let a client play. I'm giving lessons as we go on.
That's wonderful, in fact. That's wonderful. Now we can take 1 or 2 questions, as it's already dinner time, by the way. Chetan ji, Tarun ji is here. Anybody would like to have a question here? Please.
Decorator. Although, of course, different people will have different temperaments and different styles of working. But having said that, can you tell us what are your expectations while working with a planner?
Sir, it's simply, it would be do your job. I mean, I don't expect anything from a planner but doing his job. So if he's doing his job, I'm doing my job, that's what. I don't get it, I mean, what exactly you're coming from. But it's like very simple. Hotel is doing their job, I'm doing my job, maybe the planner is doing his job, so it's about doing the job. And it's a larger interest, which is, yes, of course, the event tonight or event in hand. I don't know if I'm correct, if I've answered it correctly. You can elaborate.
I'll add to that. I think as planners, if he is a supplier or anyone's a supplier that you've chosen, protect him. Protect him from a perspective that it is your responsibility for clarity of brief, the clarity of what materials you want and how that design has to be executed. Most of us, or I'm telling you, I see it a lot in my own teams. They pick up something and they'll send it to the supplier or to the partner and say, "Ye karna hai." And I ask them, I say, how are they going to do it? You tell me. Now, we have not thought through that design. We don't know वो कपड़ा कैसे लगेगा, उसमें कितना सपोर्ट लगेगा, कितने हुक्स लगेंगे, क्या हाइट होगी, उसमें लाइट कैसी होगी. Are you going to do a fan somewhere because it's hot, then कपड़ा will move, the flower will fall. बाद में आप आकर के बोलोगे कि इसने इतना ऐसे लगा दिया वो तो कपड़ा तो उड़ रहा था क्योंकि गर्मी थी. आपने प्लानर है, आपने डिसाइड किया था यहाँ तो पंखे भी लगने, कूलर भी लगना है, एसी भी लगना है, सब कुछ लगना है. The fact is that we have to understand that how clear. So as planners, what is the biggest problem today is it's a nice big umbrella, it's as big as this room. We are planners. What do you plan? You plan how to make money. That's all we plan. Unfortunately, we don't get up and so we have great partners, but we don't utilize enough time. How many people can spend time off season when we have no work, in summer when we have no work? to go to their warehouses and sit down and see. I know Tarun's family now, I know his father, I know his uncles. The kind of knowledge that the elders have, which can be passed on to us. How many people know what materials are? How many people know what lighting is? How many people know what sound is? What goes on in this mic? Half the people don't know. We are planners because we are aggregators. हम 10 लोगों को बुला लेंगे, आपकी शादी हो जाएगी. पर आप कर सकते हो? Are you a director or are you just one, a glorified secretary for your client? And that's my problem. That's my problem with the whole thing. Protection is the other big thing. Your client will always try and cut your money. You will always try and cut their money. And that is it. I'm going to end on a very fun level. But we were not born as neighbors or cousins or family friends or something. Today we are great friends. Okay, and I was so. He called me and he said, you have to come, and I said, okay, I'll come. I have no questions asked, I'll come. We were doing a wedding in Agra. That's the first time I met him, many years ago. And Kalakriti, my team, my partner was already here. I had come down. The client was from Pune.
And it was a very big one, huh?
It was a huge
one.
Huge wedding. And the client and that guy was all over, ye karna hai, wo karna hai, and giving us ideas which were really crazy. Anyway, we came to execute the event. Tarun had been booked by the client directly. I was only executing and overseeing certain things. I landed up in Kalakriti and we were talking. The client was there and there was this huge shouting match going on. And I was like, so I got off the car and I came up and I was like, what's happening? So they said, the stage is not in the center, it is off center. So I looked at him and I said, oh, brother, why is the stage off center? So he said, come, I'll show you. And he took me around and there were these big hedges and we had to build a bridge over the hedge to go down. So he said it cannot be done because there's this pillar and there's this and there's that. And so it was a practical problem. So I called the guy and I said, okay, I've spoken to the supplier at that time. That this is the problem. So he called me to a side and he said, you keep quiet because I can cut his money.
Oh.
Okay. So I went.
And trust me, वो जो moment था, वो client का face देखा. मैं कहा ये होता है, ये now the client knows how important it is.
Very true.
If we